I have Jeff Jarrett here right now. Big news this week. Acclaim is coming back, but somehow you're involved. I want to get your opinion how you got involved. I have my own theory, but tell me what's going on. How did
Oh,
this big revival come back?
well, Bill, then you know what? I'm going to let you go first because I love to hear. Seriously, Bill, me and you known each other quite a while. I'd love to kind of hear what road do you think this traveled to get us here?
All right, so you have a history in video games. I know we've talked when you worked with WrestleQuest, that video game last year. And then you mentioned you kind of had a hand in getting the TNA video game with Midway. Midway had some of the rights to some of the acclaimed games like NBA Jam when they went out of business. So I'm thinking there's something there.
Well, Bill, I appreciate that. But all kidding aside, there's no secret kind of hidden agenda or magical yellow brick road here. At the end of the day, Alex is an industry expert, and the connections I've made over the last few years. Yes, you referenced the Russell West game and Mega Cat Studios, and but you have known my career, at least I think so. We go back quite a few years. I've just always kind of had a passion for the gaming industry from a business perspective. I'm not the biggest gamer in the world, although I have played NHL 25 with my son as of late, but I played a little Madden here and there and some other games. But that being said, the business of gaming is something that I've always been very attracted to. And as the team, like I said, I mean, we could go with Mark. I mean, there's a whole team that's put together, but Alex is running the charge. When all things kind of came together and they approached me, I turned it around on them and I said, before you even finish your pitch, I'm in. But before I completely say I'm in, I really want to hear your perspective on how do you see me fitting into this grand scheme of things? Because look, I've got an affinity for the brand. I love gaming. I love the business perspective of it. I think my skill set has diversified through the years. But how do you see me fitting in? And somebody at the table just spoke up pretty candidly, and they said, "We really want you to do what you have done for the wrestling industry for the gaming industry." And so there's a couple of different buckets, whether it's creative, whether it's marketing, promotion. We're here doing press. It's kind of a multi-skill set. There are all kinds of avenues to go in the gaming world from a business perspective, and I just could not be really more honored because the approach and then the DNA of Acclaim is that, man, if you've got some IP and you need guidance, and how are we going to take this IP, and maybe there's a lane that we can go down and develop something for you guys. Well, our team, like I said, they're experts at that. Or if you have a game and you're just trying to figure out how to get it to the next level, Bill, that is what we're all about. And so, Frank can get this to you, but it's hello at playacclaim.com. It's an email address that, look, we're in the business of taking things to the next level. And that's really what at the very, very core of what we're doing. And so I'm super excited about it. Over the last 24 hours, me and Frank he's our resident expert in PR for Acclaim. But we've joked, and I joked with him that I've got some new friends that I didn't even know I had, whether it's on LinkedIn or no, X or Instagram, or even my phone or the email. My phone has been blown up, and when those kind of things, and it's happened for me a couple of years ago when I got into the baseball world, that kind of thing last year, a couple of years on the WrestleQuest. When I venture out into different properties outside of wrestling, it piques an interest, and this with the branding, and look, everybody has an Acclaim story. I mean, all the titles that they've had through the years. There's touch points way outside of wrestling. Bill, me and you come together through the wrestling world, but Mortal Kombat or NBA Jam or NHL, there's a bunch of titles out there that have really through the years resonated. And that is something that I'm well aware of. that emotional connection, no different than a wrestling talent or a wrestling storyline or a wrestling promotion. When you get emotionally engaged, and there's a lot of folks that are emotionally attached to the Acclaim brand, and we're here to relaunch it, reboot it, and go to the next level.
Obviously, there you mentioned a few of the titles that were out under Acclaim, but there are, I think there were 7 or 8 wrestling related games. People are speculating, like hoping maybe there's something to be done about that. I know it's kind of early. It was just announced, but like either one of you, any teases or maybe.
Bill, you're always looking for scoop. I'm going to say this: there's a lot of balls in the air, and with my projects, they're always that way. But if I'm going to give that scoop, with all due respect, it's going to be loud and proud. And when the time's right, the whole world will hear. Of course, I'm excited about that. But I think where we sit today, the announcement over the last 24 hours and staying laser focused on kind of our two lanes. If you got IP or if you've got a game or we we're an indie developer and we are really committed to that vision.
All right, maybe here's a more direct question. Is the logo coming back? That's what I want to know.
Yeah.
I'm shaking his head yes.
that, well, look, I could go down a big rabbit hole on just that. The fact that you asked that it's the iconic logo and you resonate with that says so much to not just the gaming world, but because if you're not a gamer and you hear that question, hey, is the logo coming back?
Hmm.
You immediately identify with that. And so that kind of says to me, this old wrestling promoter from Hendersonville, Tennessee, we're on the right track.
I do have great memories of it. I still remember, like the loading screen when it comes up and it does like I'm excited. I can't wait to find out more. We'll stay tuned, but let's talk some more pro wrestling. I want to talk about your career, more recent events. I was very excited to see you back in the ring a little more frequently. You had this storyline going on where you signed your last in-ring talent contract. You were going after the world title. Uh, when you signed this contract, like I know it's a kind of a big milestone for you, or maybe like a big, you know, last ride, or I'm trying to avoid the cliches and stuff, but
No, go ahead.
when you're going and last outlaw. When you're negotiating something like this, do you have in mind like, oh, hey, maybe I want to wrestle like X amount of matches, or is it like waiting to see like what Tony and AEW has involved? Like, walk me through how because I know in another interview you said, you reevaluate your career like every December, and then you made that decision to resign. So, what kind of things factor in as far as like what you want out of a contract like this?
So I'm probably a little bit of an anomaly, and I'll say that with all due respect, because my father was a promoter. My grandmother was a promoter. I've been around a few years. And look, as time's gone on, we're not even in the same industry from a contractual point of view, not just in wrestling. NBA has load management, the NFL, the amount of snaps a player may play, and there's different counts, and pitch count with pitchers and play dates and off days. I completely understand, but I don't want to say I'm old school. It's more of a mindset that when I really reevaluated, and I spoke with my wife Karen and one of my best friends, and the relationship that it's how it's evolved through the years, Jay Lethal, and of course Sanjay Dutt, and then I've got I'll say fellow Hall of Famers and legends and guys that I've been around. I consulted with quite a few folks and just tried to get my mind right, mindset, like how do I want to approach? And I really got back to the very bare basics, how I got into this business. Back then you don't negotiate dates and all this. And I just, pardon the pun, but I said, I'm going all in. I've always been that way. When I was on the other side of the table and I'm negotiating with the talent and they're wanting to limit their dates or only X amount of dates and all that. And again, I want to be careful to say, I completely understand that. But it is also a monster flag, in my opinion, to say that a talent saying across the table, "Hey, man, I'm going to have to go like maybe 75% in or 80% in." And I get it. It's a different world, but I looked at it and I said, man, I'm going to go all the way with this. It's going to be my last talent contract. Who knows how long it's really going to last because it's professional wrestling. But at the end of the day, I'm shooting for the stars. And I said it, in Asheville on day one, January 1st of this year, I may fall flat on my face in this last run, last outlaw ride, if you will. But I'm going to go out in a lot of ways the way I came in, with reckless abandon and high risk, high reward, and really trying to do everything I possibly can. To do it, I can't put a head on a pillow if I don't know that I really did everything I can to bring my A game. The fan base, I learned from an early age, the wrestling fans are what put groceries on the table. So they're going to spend their money to come buy a ticket, buy a T-shirt, nowadays buy a pay-per-view, whatever it may be. You got to give them their money's worth. And at the end of the day, I don't ever want to be sitting, proverbially, on the rocking chair and say, man, I wish I would have fill in the blank. So living with no regrets. And so my mind's made up. It got made up right at the end of the year, and I'm headed. We'll see what the year brings. January was super busy and a lot of moving parts, and I'm reevaluating Bill as the story goes now. But we'll see where the future takes me.
So fair to say you don't really have final opponent or last match. You don't think about that. It's just where
At
it
all.
goes.
Yeah,
Sure.
I'll say this: as of today, what do we got? The 5th of March, as we're headed into Revolution, and I'll be a part of Zero Hour. I certainly don't have any of that. I'm looking, like I always have, looking for the next opportunity, whether it comes next Wednesday or the following Wednesday or Saturday, whatever it may be.
You have a lot that comes up when people think about your career. Different promotions, intercontinental and world titles you've won. Is there something that you would like people to ask you about more, or just something that you're proud of that doesn't really get as much attention as some of those other accolades?
You know what? Again, I'm going back to kind of I've done some media as of late, promoting the brand and the launch, and obviously just wrestling media. That that there's a lot of talk of the tribalism and this and that, and it goes without saying. I embrace it because I was taught at a very young age that and look, it's going on in sports. Is LeBron the GOAT, or is Michael Jordan the GOAT? Is Patrick Mahomes or Brady, or just all the different things? Politics. I'm not going to get into that, but it's super divisive across the board. Professional wrestling, it lends itself to that. So I love that the wrestling audience engages at such a high level. And yeah, it's maybe they say some things that are divisive, but that's the world we live in. Everyone operates. Now, I don't care who you are, off your phone. So you're asking me a question. No, I want to put the ball in the fans, or in this case, Bill, I want to put the ball obviously in your hands. What I think about my career, good, bad, or indifferent, it's kind of irrelevant. I'd like to hear what you want to ask about, whether it's, like you said, whether it's a TNA story, a USWA story, WWF, WCW, AEW, world title, Hall of Fame. It doesn't matter. Um, I really, really have that much respect for, I'll call it, the wrestling consumer. I'm a consumer too, but you're a consumer, or someone who never tunes into WrestleZone. We're all consumers of wrestling.
Yeah. Uh, I mean, we could probably spend another 25 minutes listing all the things you've done. So I'm glad you have such a big variety of things that people could ask you. But here's one I think I'm hoping nobody's asked you this yet, but uh, you probably had the feeling of like, I made it in the business, right? Or maybe,
Okay, go. I don't know where
okay,
you're going with this, but the answer to that question thus far is yes and no.
Okay. What is the dumbest or silliest thing you ever bought with your with I made it money?
Oh gosh, the dumbest thing I bought.
Or the silliest
Uh,
one that you were just like, I don't need this, but
uh,
it's kind of
I,
nice to be at that level.
well, I don't. I'll let you. I mean, with strong encouragement from my old man, God rest his soul, I bought. Now I broke in '86. Okay, and I started making kind of good picture money, if you will. All this, I didn't have a big house or none of this. Living in a condo close to the airport, but I bought a Lincoln Town car, and I'm not kidding you. I regretted it, maybe driving it off the lot. I kid you not. And I had that sucker for 2 years. So let me say this: I leased the '88 Lincoln Town car with a gold package that my dad said, "Oh yeah, you need that." Yeah, so that was dumb. But hey, we're all young once and do a lot of dumb things. If that's the dumbest thing I've done, which probably isn't, but yeah.
Yeah, I think you're doing all right. If that maybe frivolous would be a better way to put it, but I appreciate the look back at the car. I had a good laugh about it. So, uh, obviously, we're talking about Acclaim. Stay tuned for updates as far as what's going on with the brand. You have My World every week. We'll wait and see when you show up on AEW again. Anything else you want to plug or promote before we close it out?
And I don't know when this is airing, but nobody does. With today's announcement of Amazon and AEW doing the pay-per-views, it goes without saying. And look, we're touching on it. My history in professional wrestling, I've been a part of a lot of locker rooms and a lot of rosters. The diversity on AEW's roster, whether it's the Lucha Libre, whether it's Japan, United States, Canada, obviously all across Europe, nobody does AEW pay per view better. Nobody does pay per view better than AEW, and I really think that's a tribute to the roster. And this Sunday will be no exception, no doubt. I'm excited for the card. Uh, Me and Conrad talked this week on the podcast, and we were talking about what's going to open and what's going to close, and where's this and what's that. There's some folks this Sunday going into that pay per view. I don't envy their position because somebody's going to have to go on. Go on after an Osprey cage match. Somebody's going to have to go on after Omega, Takeshita. Both of those guys can't go on last. You when you kind of start connecting the dots and said, all right, this is somewhat going to be the run of the show. There's going to be some guys that are going to have to follow some real show stealers. So when I can look at a card like that and I get excited about it, I just think that all the other wrestling fans, because I'm a wrestling fan long before I was a wrestler or a promoter, I'm pretty pumped about this Sunday.
Yeah, so am I. And no matter what is going on, what matches are on the card, it usually exceeds expectations. That's like you said, that's the great thing about AEW pay-per-views. It's a good time to be a wrestling fan.
It is a fantastic time to be a wrestling fan.